What if there was a way to make the Raider indestructible? I've created a build that essentially allows the Raider to have the shit kicked out of him, and in the process, he doesn't take any damage and also gets stronger. Now I'm going to go through the actual build itself. Now it is a little bit RNG reliant. The relics that I've got are basically just standard relics that you can find. The Raider one is one of his own personal relics, and the other two are just relics that I picked up going through the game. But the RNG you'll need will be things like improved damage negation when charging attacks, or improved damage negation when being attacked. And these aren't things that you'll find on actual relics. There will be weapon effects that you'll find going through the runs. And you will be able to find a lot of these. They are very common weapon effects that you pick up all the time. So the RNG, it is obviously RNG reliant, but you will find these going through your runs. They are very common. So let's get into the actual build. The build itself, I like to call the getting the shit kicked out of your build. And we'll go through each one of the relic effects I've got on. I'll also talk you through how I use the build and how I think you should use it, if you do use this build, which I do think everyone should. I honestly do think this might be the most broken Raider build there is in the game. And then I'll explain each one of the relics and what they do. As the name might explain to you, essentially you want to be taking damage to get the maximum damage boost. Now, there was a point where I almost reached 500 AR just when I was fighting one of the bosses, just from basically being attacked whilst attacking and getting the damage boost that way. Weapon relic effects, you want to pick up anything that has like damage negation when charging attacks or damage negation when taking attacks, because that will add from the damage negation you're already getting from the relics that you have on for the run. So first one we're going to talk about is the Raider's personal relic. Damage taken whilst using the character skill improves attack power and improves stamina. Now, the damage boost you'll get is a 10% flat damage once you've been attacked in the skill. And then you also get a stamina boost, which is a 20% boost. And both of these have a lingering effect for 20 seconds. The next one we'll talk about is the improved poise and damage negation when knocked back by damage. Now, the damage negation boost you'll get is a 20% flat boost for 30 seconds. And then you get an incoming poise reduction by 0.8. And that also has a lingering effect for 30 seconds. So if you take someone like the Raider who has a flat 120 poise by default, multiply it by the 0.8, which means you get an extra 96 poise. And then if you add the poise damage of your attack that you're using, like for instance a colossal weapon, this is just for instance, we'll do like an extra 200 poise when attacking. Essentially you become unpoise breakable, certainly for all small to mid tier bosses and enemies anyway. The next one we're going to talk about is the taking attacks improves attack power. Now, the other two, the starting armament deals lightning damage and the lightning attack power of 1. They don't really matter. The reason I selected those because I was doing it mostly with a full gore run, and this relic was the only one that I had that had essentially anything that was semi-decent. So that's why I picked them. So those two, the lightning attack ones, you can basically take those out. The one that's really important is the taking attacks improves attack power. Now, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but essentially it does exactly what it's saying it does. So when you get hit, when you take an attack, it gives you a 15% damage buff, and that lasts for 10 seconds. It does refresh every time you get hit, so essentially, if you keep getting hit, you've constantly got a 15% boost all the time. Now, in my opinion, you should activate this one before you activate the character skill one, because then not only do you get the 15%, you also get the 10% from the character skill, which essentially is giving you an extra 25% when using the character skill, which obviously gives you way more damage because that's going to be one of your biggest damage outputs. Unfortunately, I don't think the character skill activates the taking attacks improves attack power. So that's why you have to activate it before. At least when I was testing, I couldn't get them consistently to both activate at the same time. But let's be honest, you're going to be taking attacks all the time anyway, so they're always going to be active when you're taking damage. So I don't really think you need to worry. Me personally, I would just activate the taking attacks improves attack power first, and then use your character skill when you need to use your character skill. Lastly, and this is a really important one, Chilling Mist at the start of the expedition. Also, the character skill cooldown reduction +3. By now, you all know how Frostbite works, so Chilling Mist, Frostbite the enemy, lowers their defenses by, I believe it's either 15 or 20%. I know in Elden Ring it was 20%, but in Nightreign I've seen a few people throw the number around 15%, so I think it's 20%, but obviously take it as a pinch of salt. But not only that, most of the times you can activate taking attacks improves attack power by using the Chilling Mist, because the hyper armor you get from Chilling Mist is enough to go through most attacks, even by small to mid tier bosses. So if you do use this build, your game plan should essentially be run up to the boss, use your Chilling Mist, hopefully they attack you whilst you're using the Chilling Mist. You obviously have lowered their defenses by 20%. You then have the 15% buff activated from the taking attacks improves attack power. And then when you hit them with the Fighter's Resolve, which is Raider's skill, whilst taking an attack, you have an extra 10% damage, which is going to be a massive damage output. Now, the only other thing to mention about the build is obviously you're going to be actively taking damage, or at least, wanting to take damage to get the boost that you need. So make sure you have relics on, weapon relic effects, that essentially prevent you from taking as much damage as possible. Now, if you know you're going to fight a boss, let's say Fulgor, who's holy, so maybe you want to pick up a holy damage negation relic effect. But essentially, the ones you want to use are the damage negation boost when charging attacks and taking damage boost damage negation. Those are going to fit perfectly in your build, and obviously successive attacks gives you the bubble if you can find that as well, because those are the best ones to use. So gamers, that is basically the build. Now, in my opinion, the way you use this build means that you essentially can't die, not if you're using it correctly. You can basically stop yourself from taking a load of damage, whilst also getting a damage boost and putting out insane damage numbers. And this just goes to show that Raider as a tank, he really is, in my opinion, the best character you can use. It might be the easiest to use. A lot of people are saying he's the easiest to use because essentially you could just poise for anything and you're also putting out big numbers. But this just makes him even stronger. And once again, Raider mainers, us Raider Unga Bunga Chads, stay winning. So as always gamers, if you're still here by the end of the video, I appreciate more than you know. You are an absolute Chad and it does help the channel out massively. Feel free to hit the follow button, drop a like, drop a comment, all that stuff that also helps the channel out. And if you enjoy the build, let me know in the comments any other builds that you're using for the Raider that are very fun. As always, stay safe. Catch you on the next one. Big love. Peace.